after many, many years of doing copy the hard way and having to like run into brick walls and make mistakes later, I figured out that most people think copywriting is hard. Writing copy, like getting words on a page, is actually the easiest part. The hard part is critical thinking. And just people want to just like gloss over that and they want to like, just give me the headline that makes me $1 million.
This is The Fighting Entrepreneur, the podcast dedicated to entrepreneurs looking to change the world. Learn how to start, build, and scale a business in today's highly competitive business environment. Here's your host, The Fighting Entrepreneur, Anik Singal.
What's up, you crazy fighting entrepreneurs? Guess who it is? Your favorite person in the whole wide world, Anik Singal, back with another episode of, you guessed it, The Fighting Entrepreneur. Listen, today we're going to talk money, big numbers, and my favorite subject, you all know this, copywriting. That's right. I love talking about it. I can't talk enough about it. As a matter of fact, I have multiple guests lined up for the coming months. We're just going to talk copy, because you know this, and I say it again and again. You want to make money online? You want to be a successful business person? You want to make millions? You want to be financially free? I will give you the same lesson my mentor gave me 17 years ago, Justin Ford. He said to me, every successful business person must be able to sell through the art of the written word. Wisest words I ever heard. Didn't understand them until I hit my first 100 million in sales. And after that, I have said them again and again to as many people as I can. Today, we have a guest with us. His name is Jake Hoffberg. And he is a very, very, very awesome copywriter. And I won't tell you all about him. But yeah, he literally in 19 days took a client, brand new client, didn't know crap about what was going on, didn't know about the offer. Wasn't like he was planning it for months in his head. And in 19 days, executed multiple pieces of copy, put the whole launch together, went on to do over $275,000 from a very tiny list. We're going to dissect it piece by piece. All right. Today's going to be a different kind of interview. Sometimes I do consultation sessions. Sometimes I go in the ring. This time, we're going to do kind of like a flashback, like a timeline-driven interview. I want to see how he did this because it's not easy. It's very hard. But before we get into that and before I let him on, are you a member of Lurn.com yet? Come on. Lurn.com. 400,000 members. Go join right now. Do not miss this opportunity. We entrepreneurs, we're coming together here, okay? We're going to build 10 million of us in one place. Be a part of the revolution. Don't stand by and watch it walk right by you. So go to Lurn.com, join, and then, of course, make sure you go to onicpodcast.com. Leave me an amazing review. Please help us get the message of this podcast out to the world. And every week, I pick random winners to get awesome prizes if you've left us a review on iTunes. Without further ado, now I want to bring on our awesome guest, Mr. Jake Hoffberg. Jake, thanks so much for being here, man. I really appreciate you taking the time.
You know, I was honestly flattered when you reached out to me, since I've been aware of the internet marketing world, direct response world since 2008, back when I saw Evan Pagan's Get Altitude program. So, you know, I've seen your name for, you know, a decade or so now. And seen your ads. I've seen you for a while, so it was almost like this weird coming full circle where now I get to come on your show after I've been with you for years. So it's great to be here.
Well, thank you very much. And listen, I mean, you know, you've done some amazing stuff. I mean, you've been writing copy for almost 5 years. Your first client, this is the part that I was like, wow, your first client ever was Agora. Like it's kind of like the mecca of copywriters, and that was where you started. And then you went even in-house with them. You've been training copywriters for years, and that's not easy. That means you've definitely had to have developed systems. Now you have your own agency. You write for some of the biggest clients and the most successful people. You network with and rub shoulders with some of the best copywriters. And for those of you watching, the way I met Jake was because I've been out there for a major hunt. You know, I was looking for a great copy chief, someone to bring in to Lurn and to help us grow our copy team. And as I started connecting with various people, Jake's name came up. I actually was familiar with Jake already from some of his work. And I remember telling Jake when we got on the phone, I said, he was like, hey, how come you got on the phone with me? I'm like, because for the last like 2-3 weeks, I've been out in the world and like your name just keeps popping up everywhere. I was like, it pops up on this post, it pops up by this person, it pops up over here. And usually for me, that's okay, I got to connect with this person. They're doing something right. So Jake, congratulations on all your success, man.
Thank you.
But here's the thing. I find, Jake, people who become copywriters, they do so from the weirdest walks of life. As a matter of fact, like the person that we've brought on to be our copy chief now was legit a rocket scientist before he became a copywriter. It's like the weirdest thing, right? Me, I was supposed to be a doctor. Another one, I had met another person who writes copy who was in the elevator construction business.
I know who that is.
You know what I'm talking about, right? And it's like when I was on the phone with him, I'm like, what the hell? How the heck did you find your way into copywriting? Like, so random. But tell us your story. How did you find your way into copywriting?
All right. I think every single person I know that made it into, especially financial copy, is always just completely fell into it accidentally backwards by some strange twist of events. So I went to college 2004 to 2008, and I originally majored in music. So like I had no directional path towards, or at least I thought towards that. And then through pure chance, I got recruited into a direct sales company. We sold door to door, and I did well at it. It was super hard, but it was right in the middle of the recession, and so I was making money. So I was like, sweet, I'm just going to keep going with this. So I really cut my teeth for 6-7 years in direct sales. So I think I made like 100,000 cold calls or something. Like knocked on tens of thousands of doors, done thousands of in-person consultations and selling presentations, sold millions of dollars, face to face. So I spent a lot of time doing it kind of like, I don't know, the old school way. And then I'd known about internet marketing and online businesses for a variety of reasons, and I always wanted a piece of that internet money, right? And so one day I had one of those kind of fantasy moments where you flip I didn't actually flip my boss's desk over, right? But like, that moment where you kind of, walk in and throw him the middle finger, like the moment we kind of talk about where you can quit your job. Well, I did that. And now I had like 6 months of burn left before like I was out of money. And so I tried the info marketing thing. I was trying to start a guru kind of business and kept trying. And then I asked myself, like, man, if I could just get like a job learning how to sell online, it'd be great, because like I could sell face to face, and that was how I learned how to do that. And so one thing led to another, and I stumbled upon some copywriting products, heard about Agora and financial, and my main motivation was like I wanted to be rich. Like I didn't really want to like become a copywriter. But it seemed like, hey, if I can just spend some time writing copy, then I could go be a business owner online, and I would like know this was a critical skill set. And so without knowing that this was like an allegedly impossible task, I started reaching out to all the Agora affiliates, and like just no samples, no connection, like nothing, just cold outreach. And by some luck, one of them was willing to give me a shot. And so that began me working, freelance, remote, newbie at Agora, which is essentially unheard of. And so that was literally how I broke in, was by, figuratively speaking, knocking on doors of Agora and all the big financial publishers. And, starting with like literally, I think I worked for free for a couple months, or basically nothing. And then my very first year, I wound up making, I think 140 something thousand after fees and royalties after my first year writing copy. So, I worked really hard at it, and I saw the opportunity that just like you said, that, I saw the potential for, if I can get really, really good at this one skill, that it could be transformational for me for a lot of reasons.
Yeah. And I mean, and you've been quite through the journey. So you started writing, and then you said that was your first year as a copywriter, 140,000?
Yeah.
And so explain this. A lot of people listening right now, this was news to me. So I told you, I recently went on this search to find a copy chief, and within a very short, because I've been a copywriter for 17 years, and I've been in this space. I've been in the internet marketing space. I've never really hired a copywriter. We've had a few juniors here and there, but never dipped professionally into the space. And when I used to write copy, so when I wrote copy for other clients, when I first started, I'd get paid a bunch of money. I mean, I would charge sometimes 30, 40, 50 grand to write. Then at one point, I remember once I went in to write copy, and they offered me X percentage of the deal, but I had to do some other stuff too. And I took it, and I was like, oh, it's awesome. And then I got a few more of those, and I made, multiple six figures per piece of copy, which was amazing. But there was never a name behind it. I never knew that that's like a norm. I just thought I was getting that because of a variety of reasons. And then a few weeks ago, I started searching for a copy chief, and this thing keeps coming up: royalty, royalty. royalty. And I'm like, what the heck is this royalty? And it turns out that, man, that's like a big part of how a copywriter gets paid. Can you talk about like, how does that comp work? You made 140 grand your first year, and we'll kind of talk about how you've grown from there to where you are today. But how does that break down? Was that all salary, contract, royalty? Like, how did that work out?
So I guess let me give some preface. So in general, right, you get what you negotiate, right? Not what you deserve. So like just anyone who's hoping that clients will just kind of, start the conversation with here's some royalties, unless you've got like a nice track record, that's typically not part of it. But just know that like every deal is negotiable and you can negotiate in a fair piece of the upside. And generally speaking, right, like I came from a world where it was straight commission, right? And like there was no base salary. It was straight eat what you kill. So like I was used to performance-based deals. And I was willing to give up the short-term security and safety of money now for a chance at a much larger piece of money later. So like that's the inevitable trade-off that you get, right? Is how does the business owner reduce risk, right, in terms of cash flow out, and then pay only for results. So luckily, Agora is very used to paying out royalties to its copywriters. It's known for it. So I wasn't like in a position where, hey, maybe I was going to get screwed on this deal somehow from a client who was trying to pull a fast one over someone with a performance-based deal that would result in not paying them. So in terms of thinking about royalties, how a company like Agora does it is they split the royalties into two categories. So one is going to be customer acquisition, so bringing a new customer into the business, and then there's going to be monetization or back-end sales. So I don't want to get like too into the weeds about traffic and acquiring at a loss or any of these other things, but typically how it would work is on a low price front-end product, so something under $100, I would negotiate a dollar per new customer royalty. So my first big winner was a front-end promotion. It was a book promotion for Harry Dent, and I think it wound up bringing in more than 10,000 customers. And so I received I won't tell you the exact royalty number, but I got paid dollars per multiple of those numbers of names. So that was a substantial winner for me right there. And then anything on back end, so selling expensive back ends, $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, you can negotiate a percentage of the revenue there. And then I also did it on renewals. So if someone had a subscription product and we did an early renewal campaign to get them to go from, say, like an annual membership to go from annual to lifetime, or to just bring that revenue forward. So most of my deals were in that vein where I was going to get paid a percentage of the revenue that I brought in.
Yeah. I mean, that's really cool. And I just wanted everyone to understand that yeah, like copywriters can actually can take a chunk of the back end. And so that's huge. So that was your first year. That's a great year. And then you've really grown. I mean, as a copywriter, and I'm going to assume your income and your earnings from copywriting has grown a lot too in the last few years.
Yeah. So like anything, it has a tendency to fluctuate depending on when you kind of live and die by the sword, right? So if you've got really, really hot offers that are running really well, you can ride those things and get huge. But if you're in a position where you're kind of in a startup phase where maybe you didn't have some huge winners, then that's kind of the trade-off there. But yeah, so my my income grew pretty steadily. I had the chance to kind of grow into a leadership position. So I came in-house at Agora for a year. So instead of just being a freelance outside copywriter, I was actually copy chief there. So I built a team, and I basically wrote and planned all the marketing strategy for several alternative asset-oriented research companies that we owned at Agora Financial. So it was some different projects. And then I came outside of Agora back in November to kind of go do my own thing. And yeah, I'm doing quite well in terms of my ability to command a nice fee and a royalty at this stage in my career. So yeah.
That's awesome, man. So Jake, let's take a step back here. I think the thing that we really wanted to talk about today on the podcast was how to write copy fast, right? And not just write copy, but write super successful, multi-six-figure, money printing copy. The thing is, you put a whole launch together that did over $250,000, did over $275,000. How big was the email list that this went out to? It was small, right?
So what we did is we built a sub list. So it's always weird coming into a new client because they'll say, we have this many names in our email list. And I know enough about email to be like, let's see how many of those are actually active emails, or, like, what's your active file size? And so ran a campaign to generate a smaller qualified hot list. So we had, about 3,700 people on this small launch list that we're running this for. And awesome. It was, I'm sure if I showed you, it's pretty basic kind of webinar formula, right? Opt-in, 3-4 warm-up videos, launch video, cart's open for a couple days, it closes, reopens with Q&A, closes again, kind of thing.
Okay.
So pretty standard kind of product launch formula style thing, but at its core, it's it's coming up with what is the killer offer, how do you really position the product or service being sold so that it's presented and positioned correctly, coming up with the big idea, what's that hook, and then to some degree it's just like all of the other pieces that have to go into the launch. That's it's transactional emails, right? It's registration pages, it's thank you pages. It's just like all the little things that also have to get done.
Let's actually break that down. Let's go detailed. Let's start day one. So tell me the story. This was this client just super late in coming to you, or were you just super ambitious and as soon as they came to you, you're like, let's do a launch in 19 days? There's got to be a backstory behind that.
Yeah. So it was a friend of mine, I guess now a friend of mine and a client, and we'd been trying to figure out a project to do for, at this point, I don't know, 6 to 8 weeks. And we hadn't really nailed anything down at this point. So it was kind of in this like, we'll see, let's figure out a project. And we've like, maybe we'll do this, maybe we'll do that. So like there wasn't anything committed to, like I didn't really know what was going to happen. And we wound up talking, and it just so happened that he was going to be doing this specific launch. He had an affiliate that he was lined up with, so there was going to be some external traffic coming in along with the internal traffic. So that was how we got that size of a list. So it was about 1,800 names from his list, and about that much from the partners list in the launch. And they had a date, and they're like, hey, we're doing this thing, and we're like, who's writing it? And like, I don't know, I was going to write it. The business owner said, I don't know, I was going to write it. It's like, well, how about I just do that for you? And like, that's the first project. And so, Tuesday, April 28th was like the official kickoff call with all of the parties involved. And I don't know if you've ever done this, but like I way overcommitted to the project on the call. Oh no, I've never overcommitted ever in my life, not once. And so like this went from like, this could have just been like like a simple, all right, like build the list, we'll send a VSL, and like it could have been kind of phoning it in, but I wanted to have all the I wanted this to be a big win for a new client. Like I wanted to show off a little bit, and so. All of a sudden I was like, all right, so I've committed to building a full microsite. I need to have the self-liquidating offer, so they opt in, and then I got to show them a front-end offer. So like that needs a whole sales letter to sell, this front-end product. Then I need all the video scripts for the microsite and all the email collaterals that go with it. And then, then I still have to build like the webinar VSL. It's like the thank you page, the upsells, like the whole shebang. And, yeah, I had some panic attacks a little bit, just like, this is way too much. What did I do? Like I'm in over my head, and you have that cycle. Yeah. And that's so let's break it down. So you're doing a typical PLF, we call it PLF style launch. I think that's what or is it a webinar? So typically what happens in financial is, because of compliance reasons, we're not going to do live webinars. It's going to be filmed right in advance, and then we'll broadcast it VSL ISK, right? So like an HTML page will go up, and like it'll just play on there, and we'll pull down the page. So it's like broadcasted live. But typically we're not going to run a live promo for compliance reasons. Okay. So you have to develop from day one, you have to get opt-in page done. Yep. You have to get the thank you page that comes after that done. Yep. You said there was a low ticket offer that they would see right after they opted in. Correct. So you got to get that done, which is the sales page. Then you had pre-launch videos. Yep. So how many of those were there? At least 4, maybe 5. I think.
Wow. All right. So there's like multiple. So we're already up to like 8 pieces of content there. So there's a pre-launch video. Then you got the sales video. So that's 9 pieces of content.
Yep.
Then you got the upsell video.
So we did the upsell. It was so actually we didn't do an upsell after the launch product. It was $1,500 for an annual subscription or $3,000 for lifetime. Mm-hmm. And so instead of building an upsell path, I just pulled the whole thing forward into one cart because I was running out of time and couldn't do it.
Yeah, of course.
So,
and then there's a bunch of emails around that.
Yeah.
So it's 10 pieces of fundamental copy plus a ton of emails that go around that launch that you had to write in 19 days. So let's talk about how you approached it, man. Starting day one, like what is your approach to organize and get through all of that? From you've got to think of the idea, you got to think of the hook, you got to sit down and write. Take it away. I'm going to let you talk through the whole thing, like the timeline of it.
And at the end, I'll show you a nice little diagram that kind of illustrates all the actual project built in a funnel diagram map. So we'll save the big reel for the end.
All right. Awesome.
All right. So after many years of doing copy the hard way and having to like run into brick walls and make mistakes later, I figured out that most people think copywriting is hard. Writing copy, like getting words on a page, is actually the easiest part. The hard part is critical thinking. And this is where most people want to skip over, right? And in every marketing course you've ever taken, you hear things like doing competitive research, figuring out your avatar, like all of these, the research step, right? And most people want to just like gloss over that and they want to like, just give me the headline that makes me $1 million, right? They want to just jump right there. So what I did, which is where I always have to start, is I really have to know for a new client, like I got to figure out the track record of the guru, the track record of the service. I need to know like what the product is, what the product does, what problems does it solve, like looking at customer service emails, testimonials for the product, and really do like a lot of thinking as to like how exactly does this product work? Does it actually work the way that it's described? How has it been sold in the past? So like a lot of the initial stages of like that first week was me just kind of learning about the client, their philosophy, their style, the voice. So like they had published, the client had published a book, 10 years ago. It was just like 500 pages. So like read the entire book, played with the product that they had, looked through back issues of the product. Like it's a lot of reading. And I know that if I do that because I've been in the space enough in financial, that like I can pretty much piece together like where's the hook or the unique mechanism. Like it's probably going to be somewhere in copy that's already been produced, right? Like after this guy's been writing commentary for 20 years. So chances are like somewhere in like the past several years, he said something that's really good that has not been, properly presented. So I find that like a lot of times copywriters and marketers just really don't understand the product at all. They don't understand like how does this actually solve? Like how does the product work? And because they don't really fundamentally know like what does this thing do, they can't describe what is it like to use this product? What will your life be like after you have the product? And they can't explain simply like what does this thing do and like what do you get when you hit buy now? And so like answering all these initial setup questions is really key, because if you don't, you won't know how to properly set up the sale. And if you've ever been in any kind of negotiation, you've been in sales, like very rarely do you just walk into a sales situation and someone's ready to buy, right? There's like a process where they have to like get positioned correctly. You have to put things in a certain order so that when you do show them the offer, like, oh, that makes sense. I see how this works. So that was where that's probably where I spent 2 weeks of the time, was really just getting into figuring out how does this thing work? Like what kind of testimonials can I get? And is there anything that I can just take from people's real experiences and turn those into promises? Because a lot of times like you need a big promise in your promotion, otherwise it doesn't work. But like you can't make a promise you can't back up, right? So like a lot of it was just figuring out what could I legally say and what could I actually prove. And so that was like the longest process of it. I had to like interview the guru and get the full backstory. Like, how did you discover it? All these story points that I knew I was going to need for all this other copy. And it's like, if I didn't gather all that at one time, what's easy to do is you get into the promotion and you get halfway through and you get stuck because like you don't know where it's going to go. You haven't thought through the structure of it. You're missing pieces of research. And so the more time you can spend, sharpening the axe on the front end of like knowing what needs to happen, what has to get accomplished, what pieces do I need, the easier it is in the fabrication stage to be like, cool, I did all my setup work. I've got all my materials. I have it all laid out. And now I just got to put stuff together, pop it into place. And then now I've got a finished product. So that's the part that most people skip because it sounds like hard work, and it is, to be honest. But once you do it and you have that set up, well, now you have all that stuff done. So if you want to do iterative copy, you want to test new hooks, new leads, new things, you already have all of the initial research done, so that you can just keep firing faster. Where a lot of people get stuck is like they don't complete the research stage first, as they start writing first and they get stuck because they don't know where it's going to go. So so for the first 2 weeks, so it started on Tuesday the 28th. I spent a lot of time reading, doing research, and then the entire week of May 4th was all research. So coming into Mother's Day, Sunday, May 10th, I had no copy had been written at this point, but I'd spent 2 weeks doing all the research I needed to do on the project. And at this point, I'm also starting to panic because traffic is supposed to go into this funnel in 7 days. And I'm in this moment where it's like, there's a lot that has to get done.
Yeah. So I caught, you said did I catch this right? 2 weeks, almost all in just research.
Yeah.
So out of 19 days, I mean, we're down to less than a week now to write.
Yeah.
And we went over this, over 10 pieces of copy plus emails. So, but I want everyone to take away, that's interesting. Like a true copywriter spends more time in research than almost anything else, because like you said, once you've laid the research out really well, the rest writes itself. And I found that really interesting. Anyways, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure I heard that right, and I wanted everyone else to really take away. So, okay, great. So you've got very little time now to write. Go.
So, and keep in mind, so I know that there's things that are going to be last minute, and normally I don't like to work under these tight turnaround times, but everyone's been in a position where it's like, that's where you're in and you got to get it done. You got 7 days. There is no alternative. So Sunday I start writing, and I write so I did 2 versions of the registration page, and I needed to write I knew traffic was going to come into the opt-in page. So I knew that as soon as someone hit that opt-in page, everything had to get done. So someone opts into the page, the fulfillment, the registration confirmation email has to be done. The HTML sales letter where they're going to go to afterward has to be done. Then the cart page that they go to next had to be done. And then the order confirmation page behind that has to be done. And it has to be done right now, so we can go through proofreading, design, production. So, I had realistically, 48 hours to do all of that stuff. So wrote my face off, got it all done. Got it over, had to shoot a short teaser video, a 2-minute video saying, hey, thanks for signing up for the webinar. Looking forward to having you. But, before you go, I wanted to tell you about stuff, right? I had to do that kind of little teaser copy. And then from there, it was just deliverables, just day by day by day by day by day that had to get done. So if traffic starts Sunday, then that means your emails have to go out every single day. And that email has to lead to a page. So that page had to be done. And then on that page is a video, and that video has to be done. Right. So I knew I had to hit deliverables every day so that thing could get produced on time. So pretty much every single day, a new day's worth of copy had to be done. So now we're on Sunday, May 17th. So the first email has gone out. Traffic is coming to the page and we're getting opt-ins. So Thursday of that is when traffic is going to go to the main sales point, the VSL webinar, right? The VSL. So at this point, I do not have a script written for the VSL. I think even by the end of Monday, I think I maybe had a kind of an outline as to what I was going to do. And then I don't recommend this. I wrote for, I think, 13 hours on Tuesday the 19th and did the entire VSL script, 12,000 words in that day. And I think I cleaned it up and edited it in the morning. It got shot that night by the guru. And then in the morning, like I didn't see it before it went live, right? And then 1 p.m. on Thursday, like it went live and it did well. So
let's break that down. When you sit down to write a VSL, 12,000 words you have to write down. This is it. This is the moment. This is the moment of truth. This is what's going to drive the money. What's the process like? I mean, do you outline it first? Was your research already laid out? How do you decide what the first sentence is? You know, a lot of people hit writer's block when they're trying to write. How do you do that? Like what do you have a formula you go through? Like, are there chunks you fill out first, a layout? Like, walk me through how you write a VSL.
So in the research process is where you're figuring out really the structure. So the beginning of it is going to be just like looking at other copy for how has this product been sold. So there's going to be sometimes you get some layups where there's a really juicy piece of copy somewhere else and it was a buried lead, right? Maybe you saw something, it was like on page 6 of some sales letter and you're like, cool, that's actually really good. We should just take that and just use that as a lead in. In financial copy, it's sometimes, in a lot of ways, it's different. If because this was a systems promotion, meaning I have like a money-making system, a stock trading system, it's closer to like BizOp or internet marketing, where it can be presented more as like a problem solution, like calling out the problem the person is experiencing. Whereas like if I was selling a single stock story, like, hey, you should invest in this stock, I can't really call out someone's problem. I have to talk about something different. So in this case, the promo, it opened with, it was a question. It was, what does it take to consistently win in the stock market? And I'm not talking about hitting a couple of triple-digit winners here and there or having a couple big years in a can't miss bull market. I'm talking about year in, year out, beating the market and earning a full-time income from your investments. It was something like that. Like it was painting this picture of like, what does it really take to do that? And opening with that. And then, and so like the problem being trying to address is what's this person trying to achieve? The outcome that people want, right? Is they want like, you know, to some degree passive income. But if you're investing right now, like why are you investing? So you want to be at a point where like your money is making you money. And so if this person has been struggling to try and make that reality happen, you know, there's a lot of skepticism you got to overcome, you know, a lot of past failures you got to overcome. So I wanted to just call that out immediately. Like what does it really take to make this thing happen? And then it was like, you know, is it luck? You know, is it some magic, you know, magic system you don't have? Or is it really because there's a secret that you don't know that's been kept from you by the so-called powers that be, and then kind of led into, you know, and I'm going to tell you the secret here in this presentation and blah blah blah. So it was kind of a mix. So in other promos where I can have like a really, really big promise about how you're going to make all this crazy money and I can back it up, I would probably lead with more of like a big promise of, you know, how to make $1 bazillion million in 15 seconds or how this special trade could make you, you know, whatever. But I had less of that, but I had like a lot of really good testimonials and proof from people who had really liked the service. So I wanted to I wanted to use more of that versus like too hyperbolic claims. So I knew that like the promo was going to be based heavily around like a lot of proof, a lot of testimonials, and just a lot of answering objections for things other people had. Now I might have done something different for a different product had I had different stuff that I found in the research, but based on what I found, like I kind of knew what I was going to do. There was going to be a hero story because he had a really compelling backstory. He was meant, you know, the guru had, he was injured when he was young, so he was you know, paralyzed from the waist down. He went to work on Wall Street when he was like 17, 18 years old. He was mentored by this person worth, you know, multiple hundreds of millions of dollars, where he learned the system that we're now teaching this person. So it was this very like captivating story of overcoming struggle and hardship, and I was really trying to like focus on how do you connect and build empathy with the reader and their situation and demonstrate like I've been there too. So like I knew going into it that like that's how I was going to create that connection with the reader, and then just a lot of proof afterwards. So I don't know if that answers your question, but like I knew all that in advance because of the research.
No, it does. So again, it's the research that lays it out. So, okay. So you've basically at this point, you've written the VSL, you're writing as you go, right? Which is going to be necessary. So it's like a lot of people would not even dare launch the product until all the copy for everything was done. But you know what asset is needed next, what's going to go live in front of the customer. So the VSL gets done, it gets filmed, gets put out there. And I'm assuming you're probably sitting on pins and needles. Was $275,000, was that a good result, a great result? Was it an average result, like based on what the client was used to seeing?
So, and actually, let me clarify. So it was $247,000 in new revenue. And then I ran a campaign afterwards where we did a renewal campaign and picked up, I think, another $63,000, just so that I'm not misrepresenting the results.
Sure.
So just to put that in perspective, so when you back the numbers out, we're talking that I think we had 3,700 people. The affiliate traffic wound up not doing very well, but if you just straight raw stats, that means I think we did like 117 sales. It roughly meant that every single opt-in we got to the list was worth about $67 in sales. Huh. And if you take out the affiliates, it was and you just counted the client's internal emails, just the emails that came from the client's list, it wound up being $117 per name that opted in.
Wow.
So
that's amazing.
Which and wound up, we converted 5% of the entire file that opted in, right? So like, if you don't know anything, like those are big numbers for a promo that like, I don't want to say slapped together, but it wasn't like I had 4 months to do this. It wasn't like there was tons of production. Like this was a minimum for me, like a minimum viable offer just to see like, will people buy this at all?
Yeah. So for the client also, was this above average? Was it like something better than what they're used to seeing?
It was. And so that promo wound up contributing to their best month ever. So I think, by the end of that plus some other stuff wound up putting them over their best month ever, for that. So they're pretty happy with it.
Wow.
And I mean, I'd rather, I would say it was probably like my favorite copy that they've ever run, but that's mine. So what will happen is we're going to run it again at the end of this month, and then we'll run it a third time with cold traffic going into it as well. So that way I've basically got 3 shots at running this launch to kind of get an accurate idea as to, all right, how does this perform to other traffic sources and not just, the internal lists. Since the idea is obviously have something we can pull cold traffic in. And so we're building up towards that over the next 50 days.
No, that's awesome. So the research process that you walked through, that was really like the huge takeaway for everyone watching and listening. It's funny because we talked about how to write copy really fast, and it's like, well, you research really slow and then you write copy really fast. And I love that. It's something that we don't hear a lot. Let me take a step back right now. And so let's say someone listening right now, they're not a trained copywriter, okay? They're just looking to get started in copywriting. So let's say we're gonna take a trip back in time. And so you're gonna zap yourself back a year from now. You were sitting in Agora, you're a copy chief.
Okay.
And one of our listeners has just been put at your table. And some senior at Agora is like, it's like his niece or something. You're like, you got to teach her copy, period. Right. And you're like, what do you know about copy? And she's like, what's copy? And you're like, oh crap. So what do you do with this? Like, because you've trained a lot of copywriters, and that's one thing Agora is known for. There's like structured training systems and classes and internships. What do you do like the first month with someone who's trying to learn copywriting?
I'm actually in the process of training some other people's teams as well. So I've tried a lot of things over the past 3 years to get people up to speed quickly. And I would say the most important thing to teach a new copywriter is to stop being creative, as strange as that sounds.
It's like words out of my mouth. Yes. Okay. Sorry. I had to just, like, that excited me.
It's so I remember I was in college and I took some music history class, and the teacher said the art cycle goes through when you're an artist, it goes through 3 stages. That's imitate, integrate, and then innovate. When you look at artists and how they develop, most people want to start at innovate. Right? They want to start all the way to, right? So you look at like Picasso, for example, and how did Picasso start? Well, he started by making replicas of the old masters' paintings, right? So he would start, and so like you see these like pre-modernism, postmodernisms, and you look at Picasso's paintings and you're like, this looks like garbage, right? Like this, I could paint a better painting, but like you miss the part where he went through many, many years of being able to paint, hyper realistic paintings that he copied from the masters, right? And so I would say the biggest weakness is people don't understand structure, and they don't understand like what has to happen when. And so they look at copy and they see something, they think it looks simple. First of all, most people think copy is easy. It's not. And mostly because like they don't understand sales. They don't understand like a sales argument, an investment thesis goes in an order. Like you build a pitch deck, things happen in a specific order, and you have to tell those specific sections in a specific way. So the first thing that I have people do is to reverse engineer copy that already works. And if I know if I can get them to see the copy, if I can train them to see what's happening under the words. And so what I'll have them do is you can print it out by hand. You can print it out if you want, mark it up by hand. You can put it into a Word file and do it. But I make them go through line by line and make them annotate the copy. And so, and I use words like, it's open loop, curiosity, promise, proof. There's a variety of things you can describe what's happening in that line of copy. But I usually start with them like take some emails, some space ads, display ads, advertorial, short pieces of copy, and just look and use your eyes and see like what's happening in this copy. And the reason I do it is I found that the more I taught people how to write copy, the less they learned, because I wasn't teaching them how to do what needs to happen, which is how do you solve your own problems. And that's like the most important things is like, you can't have people who expect that you're going to solve the problems for you. You can't grow a business that way. They have to be trained of like, you have to believe you can solve your own problems. And in copy, like there's too much happening all the time for me to have a template for you. You need to be able to go look at what's working and be like, how do I reverse engineer this so that I can take these lessons and do it again? So that I think, and that's called critical thinking, right? That's like looking at something and thinking critical about it. And then this is like a skill people should have learned in school, but they didn't. Reading comprehension and critical thinking. So most of the early, first month or two, maybe longer, is just spent read copy, reverse engineer it, and see if you can see what's happening and like find your own examples and your own inspiration instead of asking me for a paint by numbers template. So once they've done that, and now we can have a conversation as to, cool, what do you see? Now they can tell me, here's what I see. And now we can have a discussion about that versus ethereal, conceptual land stuff, which never translates to action. And I think you've had a similar experience with training people. Is
100%, man. First of all, I've got to say, like, if anyone's listening, stop being creative. It's so painful. Especially when you're first starting. People think copywriting is all about coming up with what's never been done. And I think it's the exact opposite. I still love, I call it copy hacking, right? Russell calls it funnel hacking for funnels. I call it copy hacking for copy. I love the best thing someone can tell me, and I'm surrounded by marketers that are geniuses and they are doing amazing work. So the other day, I was having a conversation with Joel Irway. He talks to me about this particular type of page and particular type of promotion. I said, what's the URL? He's like, here it is. I see the page. I'm like, great. Is this working well for you? He's like, oh, it's one of the best things I've ever had. We were off the call within 15 minutes. I kid you not. That entire video on the page had been TEMI'd, TEMI.com. That means it was transcribed. I ripped the video down. I was watching it and I was reading the script. And within 24 hours, I had my own version of it. With full respect to Joel, as a matter of fact, I just submitted it to him for review. I was like, can you tell me if this is good? No one would know. If two random people read both copies, I don't think they'd even know that this was modeled after that. But I completely reverse dissected it. I looked at what he had created. I looked at what triggers he's going for at what parts, and I just rewrote it to fit my offer. Our offers are completely different realms. So, and you know what? It was so easy. it was just so, and by the way, I didn't write it, to be fair. I had one of our senior copywriters write it and I gave him feedback, but it was like the easiest thing we've ever done. And there just wasn't any creativity needed for it. And it'll work. I haven't tried it yet, but now once the first version is up, that's when I tell my team, go be creative now, because you've got a control. You've got one that's working, test against it. You can't really mess it up. But if you go in from the get-go with all the crazy creative stuff, then you're going to be putting things at risk. I'd rather model after what works. Everyone listening right now would be like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. Oh my God, you'd be surprised how hard it is to get people to just follow that. The second piece you said, Jake, which I completely agree with, you want to learn to write copy? Stop learning. Start doing. It's grab pieces of copy and start rewriting them, start dissecting them, start paying attention for why they did what they did, where they did it. That's the best way. So you're right. I launched an internship program. It's almost going to be 2 months now soon. And I don't teach them anything. I literally, the only thing I teach is every week we have a call on Tuesdays where I get on the call, bring them all on. And I'm like, you know what? I've been reviewing copy this week. These are 3 things that all of you need to write down on a piece of paper and keep in front of you. I want to see improvement on these 3 things this week because I'm seeing a lot of this. I'm seeing a lot of this. That's it. That's our training. The rest of the time I'm reviewing it. I'm asking them, why'd you do this? Why wouldn't you follow this? Go change this. And they're writing copy. They're writing emails, writing social posts. And I have just, wow. Progress probably I haven't seen in people in a year. I've seen in like 4 weeks. So really, really awesome feedback there. Geez, man, we've had a lot of your time. It's been really fun just seeing how you do research, how you teach new copywriters. Before I forget, Jake, if someone wants to stalk you, follow you, learn from you, give you money, throw money at you, where do they go?
So at this point, like probably the easiest way is you can, on Facebook, right? Jake Hoffberg. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can email me directly, jake@jakehoffberg.com. That's my name right there. I wish I had some kind of fancy web page with an opt-in thing and all these. I just don't. I'm too busy like doing other stuff. I feel like that's always been the that's like my friend Paris from Proctor as well. Has no web presence, can't find him online. I feel like that's kind of like the semi-mark of like someone who's too busy to do their own stuff. Like that's a great professional. But I'm pretty easy to find. I'm online. So just send me a message if you want to connect and I'll respond to you there.
That's awesome, man. Well, thank you very much for being on this podcast and talking copy with us. I'm sure we'll have you back in the future as well, talk more copy. And Jake and I, guys, we were laughing before we got started. It's a small world in the copy world. And I blitzed it like the last 3 weeks. So I would say it's safe to know I got my name out into the financial copy world pretty quickly there the last few weeks. I talked to everybody on LinkedIn, everyone asking, who do you know that I can bring on? But it's been a great journey. I didn't know anything about the financial space when it comes to copywriting, and it's just a different walk of life. It's so different than what we do copy in this world. But what I learned from it, it's so professionalized and systemized, and that was refreshing. So Jake, thank you, man, from the bottom of our heart for joining us, for teaching us. And I hope everyone goes and follows you. Jake Hoffberg, guys, if you need to know how to spell his name, go to anikpodcast.com, ANIK podcast.com. Make sure you leave us a great review. All right. And make sure if you're watching on YouTube right now, leave a comment, say something to Jake because he spent time with us. Send him a message, send him a quote, send him something. Click subscribe, click the like button, click the thumbs up icon, whatever there is. Do something, all right? Anik Podcast, leave us a review. Remember, every week I pick random winners of people who leave us reviews on iTunes to win cash, to win swag, to win calls with me, whatever, okay? So with that said, thank you very much. Go out there, fight for your dreams, make it happen. We'll see you next on the next Fighting Entrepreneur. This is Anik Singal, signing off.
Thanks for listening to The Fighting Entrepreneur with your host, Anik Singal.